Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. Thank you for being subscribers of Cignal TV and viewers of One News PH via channels 8 and 250. Thank you also to PLDT for their home fiber optic internet that gives us uninterrupted transmission here in Capitolio, Pasig, and sometimes in Lipa City. Today is February 23, 2022. It's a Wednesday. For those of you who have lost track of dates and days because you no longer have a calendar, welcome to the show and stick around because today we are going to be speaking with two gentlemen. First would be the Senate President Pro Tempore, Ralph Recto, to discuss a new version, the new bill, or well, it's already a law, if I'm not mistaken, a new version of the gun law in the Philippines that is reportedly liberalized and beneficial to many, especially regarding renewals. We will speak to Senator Recto since he is also an avid shooter, but we will also be speaking with him regarding this tug of war between the Department of Finance and Congress regarding reduction of taxes on fuel. Because si Congressman Mikey Romero po nanguna na para mabawasan yung buwis sa gasolina at krudo, pero pumapalag ang DOF at si Secretary Sani Dominguez as expected dahil wala raw silang pagkukunan ng pambayad ng utang. Okay, after Senator Recto, we will then be speaking with Lloyd Manoloto of Smart Communications Inc. Dahil tatanungin po, please join us because we hope to get a primer, briefer, a lecture on what is 5G, what is the smart 5G technology, and how can it be beneficial to all of you. In the meantime, let's go to our daily starter from the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 9. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts. Sometimes things happen to us. We find ourselves in situations or are surrounded by people or events that we can't figure out, and we insist on what we want. We insist on having our way. But God is saying, bata, relax ka lang dyan. Kasi yung iniisip mo, dyan lang sa level mo, mas malalim at mas malawak ang aking pananaw at pamamaraan. So, trust God in His ways, for His ways are higher, okay, than the earth, and higher than your ways and His thoughts than your thoughts. Mas malalim mag-isip si Lord, but He is always thinking of your benefit. Okay, let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star for a quick glance at the news and what's happening today, February 23, 2022. Headline, the DOF bucks suspension of excise tax on fuel. Pinalagan po ng Department of Finance yung mungkahi ni Congressman Mikey Romero and some sectors to reduce. They bucked the suggestion of reducing the excise tax on fuel. And DOF insists that the price of fuel has not reached $80 per barrel, so it's not yet time as stated in the law. And Secretary Dominguez even pointed out that we are not the only ones suffering. Other countries are suffering also. Yung pala ang policy ngayon, maghintayan na tayo sa kahirapan bago may gawin. Okay, go to the top of the headline of the front page. DOH vaccinate 80% of seniors first before alert level 1. Kung ang DOH at si Secretary Duque ang masusunod, they want 80% of senior citizens fully vaccinated with boosters before they agree to the NCR going to alert level 1. So, ilang million ba yung nasa Metro Manila? 15, 20 o 55 million ba will be hostage by 2 million? Ayan na po. Okay. That photo below the header is a photo of a school in Las Piñas, okay? University of Perpetual Health Las Piñas conducting face-to-face classes, although there are only 6 in a classroom that usually sits 40, if not 45 students. Meanwhile, low laboratory output equals Philippine posting lowest 1,019 new COVID cases. Just when you think things are improving, it turns out that the low number of new COVID cases yesterday was a result of low output or kakaunting mga laboratorio ang nagbigay ng kanilang mga data. Meanwhile, only 44% of healthcare workers received boosters, okay, or booster shots. Yan po ang report ng Department of Health. So obviously, in spite of all the hallelujahs of great vaccination numbers, turns out the boosters is not that great. And as far as the senior citizens are concerned, meron pa ring mga natitira. Marami pa ang natitira. Meanwhile, a former University of the Philippines School of Statistics acting dean, Francisco de los Reyes of UP, said that the social media polls are not credible. Yan po yung mga survey online sa Facebook, sa Instagram, sa etc. etc. So, wag po kayong nagpapaniwala raw dyan sa mga yan kasi hindi naman sila experts on surveys. Meanwhile, more OFWs in Hong Kong test positive for COVID-19. Ayan po, because yung kahit anong pag-iingat ng Hong Kong, Singapore, etc., they are now suffering what we went through last year and over the holidays, a surge of Omicron or Delta COVID-19 cases. And Filipino workers, OFWs in Hong Kong, have not been spared, although the consulate there are trying to do their best. Okay, now, number of cases, active cases, 1,019 as of yesterday. New cases of COVID in the Philippines, 1,019. But deaths, 13 lang kasi nga, konti lang ang nag-report. Okay, eto po, pay attention to this. Last 2 or 3 news items which is going to play an important role in the future or factor in the future. Putin orders troops to Ukraine rebel regions. Kumbaga, tinutuluyan na ni Vladimir Putin. Russian President Vladimir Putin is essentially pushing through with his plan to control the region by sending tanks and troops to separatist areas in Ukraine. Why should you pay attention to this? Because 100% tataas ang crudo gasolina na naman dahil dyan. Okay. Meantime, the Credit Suisse leak, okay, yung Bangko Credit Suisse, nagka-leak po and it revealed unmasks na bulgar na may mga clients sila na mga hindi dapat in-entertain ng bangko. Meron daw criminals and fraudsters among the bank's clients. One of them was even a Swiss national who was arrested, I believe, in Cagayan de Oro for human trafficking and online sa sex, cyber sex. Okay, so yan po, no? And of course, there's also a link associating lawyers associated with the Marcos Group of having deposited millions of pesos, sabi, pesos, francs, Swiss francs, sabi nung mga nag-imbestiga. Paano nangyari yun? They were charged, they admitted in court, and then you accepted money from them. Iyan po. Last but not the least, nako po, ito ang magiging isang issue. PNP chief under fire over helicopter crash. PNP chief Leonardo Carlos is now being subject of criticism and probably will be investigated because after the PMA homecoming, he decided to go down to Manila and then decided to take a weekend break at Balisin. Buti pa siya nakakapunta sa Balisin. Ako hindi ako makatungtong sa dalampasigan ng Balisin dahil ang mahal. Anyway, the PNP chief went there on a private time to rest, according to his statement, take a time out, and when the plane, the Balisin helicopter or plane or whatever could not go to the island to pick him up, nag-request na lang siya as PNP, of course, for the PNP chopper to pick him up. And that seems to be within his privilege of rank. Unfortunately, that chopper crashed, injured the pilot, co-pilot, and resulted in the death of a private first class. Okay, so ayan po, nako po, kasi yan ang sinasabi ko naman sa inyo, kung meron namang commercial flight, mag-commercial. Kung hindi importante, maghintay. Okay, that's the news for today. Let's now go to our first guest who's going to talk to us about bang, bang, bang. Ito yung kapitbahay kong maingay eh. Laging nagpapaputok, hindi naman New Year. Okay. A friend of mine, family friend, none other than Senate Pro Tempore, Ralph Recto. Good morning, neighbor.
Good morning, Primo. Good morning, Cito. Thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure. And I picked up one of your emails, which I rarely do, to be honest. You know, I rarely pick up on an email. But I found it interesting because it started with an explanation. Sabi ko, why does a senator have to explain? And it turns out it was actually explaining the provision of this new law regarding gun ownership, and of particular interest to many is the renewal process. So Senator Recto, if you may, I give you the floor.
Yes, Tito, that was my explanation of vote in the Senate, no? Which we principally authored the extension of the validity of firearms licenses. No? Mm-hmm. So basically what we did is, today you need to have 3 licenses to own a firearm. No? One is a license to own and possess. The others to register your firearm, and if you need to carry it outside of residence, you need a permit to carry. Okay, so what we did is the license to own and possess, you could now, the validity period is 5 to 10 years at the choice of the applicant. The registration for a firearm is also 5 to 10 years at the choice of the applicant. And the permit to carry, if you need one, is 2 years, the validity, no? And all of these parang registration din ng vehicle, it will fall in your birthday. Okay. The reason for this is simple. There are more than 2 million firearms not registered. Okay. Mm-hmm. The idea is for government is to make it easier for those who want to register their firearms. So better na naka-register yung mga firearm nila because law-abiding citizens will register their firearms. Mm-hmm. Okay. You make it simpler for them, then they will register. Yes.
Now, well, that is all well and good because that has been the lament and the prayers of those, as you said, 2 million gun owners. Now, the problem, it would seem
It's
now
actually
is,
more. Yeah.
okay, more. Okay, so
Unregistered lagi
congratulations.
2 million, yes. Yeah.
Okay, maraming salamat because you have been very responsive to this particular sector, okay? But here's the question, kasi some people have told me when we talked about this, some people have told me, Cito, Ralph's bill is good, but the problem is we can't even register our guns because the PNP keeps saying there has to be an amnesty before all of these expired unlicensed weapons or guns are allowed to be re-registered.
That is correct. Ibang issue naman yung amnesty, but that's something we can pass a law again. No? But actually, you don't need a law for that. Eh. I know that the PNP is open to having an amnesty again, because, like I said, it is to government's interest to register these firearms.
Yeah. You're correct there, Senator Recto. No, but here's the thing, Ralph. When you say there is no need for law, it becomes it's subject to whim, caprice, or politics. And may mga nagsasabi, di ba pwedeng gawin na mag-ano na lang every so many years, every 2 years or whatever, magkaroon ng amnesty. Kasi as you pointed out, we want those guns registered.
Yes.
Why should we even make it difficult for people to register those guns?
Correct, that's correct. So what we can do is, yes, I can listen to them and we can file a bill again on an amnesty. But like I said, during the course of our hearings, the PNP is prepared to issue an amnesty also, pwedeng through executive order lang yan. Eh. Minsan
Natatawa lang ako, Ralph, and please excuse me. Kasi siyempre, kaharap nila si Senate President pro tempore Ralph Recto. Oh yes sir, we agree, we agree. Pero pag tinanong mo na pag kami na nagtatanong, hindi, nasa kay President Duterte yan eh, nasa Malacanang yan. Kahit chief PNP, walang magagawa dyan. So, it's kumbaga I noticed the beautiful sketching of Vilma Santos behind you, your commander-in-chief. It's like the theater. You have two faces and two masks symbolizing the theater. It depends on who's facing the PNP.
I don't know about that, Cito, but I think, like I said, no, it is reasonable to think that it is government's interest to have these firearms registered, no?
Yeah.
So any right-minded chief PNP or even the president, I suppose, would be willing, I suppose, to issue an amnesty, no, if necessary, no? There are 2 million unregistered firearms. No? There are roughly about 1.8 million registered. Mas marami pa yung unregistered sa registered. Diba? Of the 1.8 million roughly registered, about 500,000 more or less are uniform personnel, and about 1.3 million are civilians. Okay. And of these registered firearms, wala naman dyan na minuscule to count yung gumawa ng krimen. Okay? So like I said, if these 2 million registered firearms, magparehistro yan, hindi gagamitin sa krimen yan. Diba? By and large. No? That's what the statistics tell us. No? At the same time, may pakinabang din ng PNP dahil kumokolekta sila ng firearm registration fees. Okay.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I sincerely pray that you get to return, if not to the Senate because you are 3-term, to Congress naman, and because you have persisted in following up on this. How do you call it, these failings, the registration of weapons, tapos yung pati nga sa vehicles, there are vintage cars, etc., etc.
We just passed that too. Bagong Napasa na rin yan sa Kongreso, yung vintage vehicles, to make it easier for people like you.
No, I retired. I gave up,
You
Senator
gave
Ralph.
up already.
I gave up.
But we're
You
making
know,
it easier now for everyone.
Yeah, 20 years of trying to convince the LTO that they can collect fees and register vehicles. But no, they dribbled me around for 20 years, so I gave up. But you have finally passed a bill.
Yes, yes. All, and now, ito, hinihintay lang for the president's signature on the vehicles, on the firearms. And you know, we were also the principal authors ito, no? Ako, galit ako sa red tape eh. So, yung lisensya ng tawag dito, yung vehicle license, no? Panahon namin ni GMA when we extended that to 3 years. Ngayon, yung driver's license, we passed a law also in the Senate, which I principally authored too. Yung extension ng driver's license to 5 years.
Yes.
No? Yung passport, ganun din. Up to 10 years.
Okay.
So we've done this for many other sectors as well.
Well, bibigyan kita ng additional goal, Senator Ralph. Maybe you can do it because I'll definitely be writing a column about this. You know, the fact that employees applying for jobs have the burden of getting NBI clearance. I mean, you're the lawmaker.
Yes.
I'm asking around, no? Meron bang batas? Is there such a law that requires a job applicant to get an NBI clearance? Or is this the creation of employers who are too damn lazy to get their HR, human resource department, to do that?
I'm not aware of any law that mandates that you need to get an NBI clearance. So ito, ano lang to, ng employer, no? But having said that, Cito, meron din akong panukala na yung validity of birth certificates. Dapat lifetime yan. Hindi naman dapat nag-e-end yung validity ng birth certificate, di ba? So may mga simpleng bagay na pwedeng gawin ng pamahalaan, no? So I think we passed that already also on third reading. Maybe in the last 2 weeks of our sessions, when we get back on May, after the elections, we can pass this into law as well.
Okay,
so,
well,
ang daming mo kailangan ibigay na birth certificate. Kukuha ka, parang nagbabago yung validity ng birth certificate.
This tells me that I now have to refresh, reboot my relationships with you, aside from being my neighbor, because you're the lawmaker and I'm the journalist. I come across these problems and I can simply pass them on to you. Kasi may mga nagko-complain bakit kailangan namin pumunta sa highway patrol to get a clearance? Pwede namang tumawag ang LTO o mag-email sa highway patrol. In fact, your colleague, Senator Ping Lacson, has long said we need to do away with that clearance system because if there is a stolen car, the LTO will find it. What the hell is this HPG clearance all about? And then yung NBI clearance, police clearance, etc.
Yeah, there are too many clearances. Bottom line, hindi dapat ang gobyerno nagpapahirap sa tao. Di ba? Hindi dapat napakaraming hinihingi at paulit-ulit. And that's why I'm saying, even dito sa firearms license, yung dati mga requirements at yung paulit-ulit na submission does not improve the vetting process.
Okay, well, speaking of pahirap sa tao, I'm sure it has not escaped your attention that there are so many drivers. In fact, one driver who drove for my mom, your Tita Marita, recently came to me and said, "Sir, tinigil ko na yung taxi, hindi ko na kaya. Inuutang ko pati pangbayad ng boundary. Baka pwede naman ako maka-extra sa'yo." So this has become a recurring story. And your friend, Congressman Romero, Mikey Romero, has suggested, and rightly so, na bawasan muna natin yung excise tax sa gasolina. But Secretary Dominguez is saying, no, the law is we wait for $80 per barrel. I mean, is it correct for us to have to wait just because the whole world is also suffering? Hindi naman tayo kasing yaman ng Amerika ng kung sino-sino.
Cito, today, the price in the market is roughly $100 a barrel already. So we should expect prices to increase even further, no?
Yes.
Lalo na ngayon, ang Russia pumasok na sa Ukraine, so tataas pa yan lalo, no? Having said that, last year nanawagan na rin kami to take a look at this because alam namin tataas ang presyo ng langis this year. Because remember, in the last 2 years, there were no reinvestments because of the pandemic. And that's why inflation all over the world is increasing, and that also includes oil. So we expected this, no? At last year, nanawagan na rin tayo na kahit temporarily, bawasan muna yung taxes sa langis at sa kuryente.
You've never been an opponent of taxation because kahit na it costs you political pogi points, you pushed for tax bills in the past because it would be good for the country in the long run. But now there is now a debate happening because the DOF, not only are they opposing the removal of excise tax or the reduction of excise tax, they want to impose more taxes to cover our international or our loans that were made for COVID-19 response. Now, ano ang reaction mo dyan, Senator Recto?
Yung utang utang per se is not bad. What is important is your ability to pay. Okay, so today, yes, it is correct that we have our debt to GDP is roughly 63%. Nominal value for debt is roughly 11.7 trillion. Siguro mga 20%, 25% of that is foreign debt. The balance is domestic, no? So for as long as mababa ang interest rate, and today you still have low interest rates, although those are inching up, kaya naman natin bayaran. Our ability to pay is there, no? And our credit rating remains the same. It is understandable for the Department of Finance. Ang gusto ng Department of Finance, collecting natin lahat ng buwis, and then through the budget, tulungan natin halimbawa yung transport sector. No? The problem with that, I agree, it's a good policy. The problem with that is masyadong mabagal ang gobyerno. Pagdating sa pagtulong, halimbawa, tulungan niyo yung mga jeepney driver, mga taxi driver, or whatever, no? Masyadong mabagal ang gobyerno. In fact, this year, we have allocated, last year, this year, resources in the budget to help our public utility operators, no? Pero hindi pa nare-release yung bondong yan, no? So a good compromise will be temporary reduction, halimbawa, in excise taxes. Hindi ko naman sinasabing tanggalin natin lahat ng excise tax. Ang sinasabi ko lang, maybe a temporary situation, let's say for the next 6 months or habang ang presyo nasa above $80 kung yun ang gusto nila, bawasan natin ang kalahati ang excise taxes on fuel, no? Maybe the next Congress we should also study one of the reasons why foreign investors don't come to the country is masyadong mahal ang utilities natin, masyadong mahal ang kuryente natin, masyadong mahal ang gasolina sa atin, no? So maybe we should, relook again, take a look at our tax structure. I can understand why the Department of Finance or government wants to collect taxes from oil kasi madaling kolektahin. In fact, it is the oil companies ang nagiging collecting agent ng gobyerno. Dahil ang kausap lang nila, tatlo eh. Instead of collecting from 100 million Filipinos or 50 million adults, each year for government to collect from 3 companies.
What about a policy on balanced budget and austerity measures in government? That's not new to you. Sa haba mong naging senador, congressman, ilang presidente na napagdaanan mo where austerity had become an active policy, but in this case, parang tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang gastusan.
In effect, live within your means, no? Naintindihan
Yes.
ko, importante yan, no? Ako, I look at it this way. Hindi problema umutang for as long as the growth rate of your economy is higher than the growth of your debt. Ibig sabihin, ginamit mo yung utang productively. Okay? So that is what we should do. Pag umutang tayo, gastusin natin yan. Hindi pang sweldo, hindi pang maintenance operations expenditure, pero for investment. No? Yun ang sinasabi ko. So, if your debt increases by 5% and your economy increases by 10, di panalo tayo.
But
That's how we look at it.
is it such a big thing? And I'm being being transparent here,
Yes, yes.
Senator. Is it such a big deal for us to tell government, boss? Kung 100% yung build mo, pwede ba gawin na lang muna nating 50% during this period? Kasi lahat naman ng mundo nagtitipid eh. Tatax mo kami, wala kaming trabaho. Tatax mo kami, wala na nga kaming makain, ang mahal pa ng pagkain. Is it such a big deal for government to cut?
You know, it's important to make these investments, particularly in education, in healthcare, in security, on infrastructure, no? On one end. On the other hand, ang malaking tinatamaan ng buwis ay ang middle class. And should also be the desire of government to have a bigger middle class. Konting mayaman, konting mahirap, malaking middle class, di ba? So that should be the vision of our society. No? Unfortunately, when we impose taxes, it is the middle class who is hit the most. So yan ang mga dapat pinag-aaralan na mabuti and to strike that good balance. No? Hindi naman maaari that we collect too much taxes from the middle class na yung middle class paliit ng baliit at hindi lumalaki. Diba? And remember, 100% tax, let's say I tax you 100% of your income, walang magbabayad nun. Ang collection nun ay zero. Okay? I tax you 0%, wala rin ako makokolekta. So it's always somewhere in between. It's a balancing act, no? And government should not overdo it. And like I said, it is important for government to make investments in soft infrastructure, especially education, healthcare, and hard infrastructure like infrastructure. No? What do I foresee, Cito? I foresee that in 2023, the growth rate of the budget will not be as high as previous year's growth rates. Okay? Magkakaroon ng austerity and the next administration, one way or the other, will have to cut the deficit. Okay? So mababawasan yung pag-utang ng ating bansa for sure. You cannot increase the debt to GDP to 100% like we used to be before, no? Right now we're roughly at 63%. We'll probably keep it at that level, no? And probably reduce that over time, no? But it will be unsustainable for us to continue to increase the deficit and increase our debt to unmanageable levels. And it will force us that when we borrow money, we have to spend it properly. Payback should be higher than the cost of the debt. Okay? So yes, magkakaroon ng austerity measures yan moving forward.
Okay, well, I've definitely learned a lot this morning from you, Senator Recto. And I do hope that and I'm confident kung Batangas lang naman ang pinag-uusapan, you will be going back to the House of Representatives.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time today and God bless you, Senator Recto.
God bless you, Cito. Thank you for having me. Maraming salamat.
Okay, yan po si Senate President Pro Tempore, Senator Ralph Recto. Ayan, kayong mga nasa pamahalaan, bumili na kayo ng mga bagong sintron dahil magkakahigpitan na raw next year. Okay, or actually late this year kung tama yung forecast ni Senator Ralph. We'll go for a quick break and when we come back, we will go to our next guest, First Vice President and Head of Corporate Marketing and Strategy of Smart Communications Incorporated, Mr. Lloyd Manoloto. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. And now let's bring back our second guest, Mr. Lloyd Manoloto, First Vice President and Head of Corporate Marketing and Strategy, Smart Communications, Inc. Lloyd, good morning.
Good morning, Cito, and good morning, everyone.
Okay.
Happy to be back here.
Okay, thank you for joining. You're a very busy man. It's hard to get time with you, but I appreciate it because I have long been puzzled, along with so many people, regarding 5G. And, Mr. Manny Pangilinan, the boss, always promotes 5G. He's so proud of 5G. But kami parang nakatunganga kami. Ano yung sinasabi ni Sir na 5G? Kasi ang inabot lang ng mga telepono namin, 3G at 4G. So Lloyd, if you would, could you please explain to our viewers what exactly is 5G and what is the involvement of smart telecommunications in this technology locally or internationally for that matter?
All right. I think a good way for you to understand is a brief history lesson, right? So the genesis of cellular was back in the 80s when we had what you call 1G, right? Yung analog. And then analog will allow you to do voice calls. And then what happened in the 90s, we had what you call GSM or 2G natin. And this one took a step further because meron na yung digital encryption na yan. So naging mas secure ang calls. You remember analog, kina-clone yan, right? And then 3G happened in the aughts, mga 2005, 2006 when we launched it here. And this one brought about the first instance of mobile broadband. Mobile internet on your phone. Mabagal pa siya pero meron na ng internet. Now, in the past decade, nagkaroon tayo ng LTE. And this one caused a lot, parang a major shift, right? Because suddenly your phone has fast broadband internet on the mobile phone, right? So now you can do, aside from your voice calls and SMS, you're now doing a lot of your chat, your internet, your browsing, your ngayon payments pa na sa phone na. You can do that with an LTE device.
Yeah.
5G is the next generation. So we're in the 2020. So para punsin mo every decade nagkakaroon tayo ng upgrades on the generation of your wireless network. 5G is the next level. And what it is, to give you an idea, kung ano gagawa ng fiber mo ngayon, roughly magagawa na ng phone mo. So kung gaano kabilis yung fiber mo, parang ganoon na magiging experience when mobile. So what will that do? It will unlock a lot of new opportunities, right? Ngayon, it will allow you to do even faster downloading, which allows you to do high resolution streaming and allows you to use your mobile phone and then you can stream it to your other devices. That's one. Second, because mas mabilis na siya, mas mabilis din yung latency. So there are two types of speed on your internet, right? The download speed, which is the speed of how fast you can get a big file into your device, and then there's what you call latency. Latency is the time between you signal from your device to the network and back, right? And that's important for applications wherein you need a lot of quick responses. Like for example, mga bata ngayon, gaming. So with that, before yung mga games na mga phones natin, mga relatively mga kailangan less yung graphics, hindi kasi intensive. What will that mean is that you can do your PC games equivalent on your mobile phone, and that now expands the type of games that people can play. And why do I bring up gaming? Because gaming is actually the parang the gateway to a lot of the new things that we do on digital, right? I think you've heard a lot of the catchphrase like the metaverse, like the NFTs, etc., right? And what will that do? Kasi ngayon, mga bata natin ngayon, our children now, they were born without knowing an age without digital. Di ba? Pinanganak na sila meron ng internet. So my kid right now, when he goes to a TV, he presses on the screen. Alam niya touch screen, right? And to them, di ba nung mga pagbata tayo, mga bata ako, nag-Nintendo ako noon, parang ano yung nalaro mo? Famicom, parang kang pampalaboy lang. Ngayon, ang gaming, it's part of the life of children, di ba? That's how they interact, that's how they move around, right? Kaya malaki na ngayon yung industry niyan. It also opens up, imagine a world wherein your personal life and your digital life are one. Nagmi-mix na yan.
Mhm.
And that's what's going to happen to a lot of things in the future. Now, when I said 5G, yung mga una nakita mga mga commercial uses, right? It will also open up a lot of parang business and kumbaga industrial functions. I think one thing that you will see more often in the future will be what they call augmented reality, wherein may mga pag yung screen mo may makita ka ng mga information kagad na dagdag. So hindi lang yung nakikita mo. Like for example, if I have an app, meron ako mga special apps pag tinuto ko siya for example to a plant, lalabas what's the type of plant, how much water, mga ganun. Or if for example meron ka mga engines, suddenly meron kang digital overlay, makikita mo yung mga other information. So yan yung magiging mga parang future applications for 5G, because suddenly everything is so fast and everything's so wireless. Like ngayon, ang limitation mo to fiber is that you have to be connected to
Correct.
a connection, right? And or maybe your Wi-Fi. But with 5G, that suddenly expands to areas beyond what you can cover with your fiber, with your Wi-Fi. Ganun yung potential power niya.
Okay, now, of course, the kids are not even going to ask questions. They're not even going to, have discussions. Kasi alam na nila yan eh. But for people who are the decision makers but are not the techies, why would I invest on 5G? And how big is the 5G network in the Philippines and abroad? Kasi, just as a story, when I was in Boracay last December, we literally had to walk around the island looking for Cignal, and a friend of mine said to me, kasi naman hindi ka pa kumuha ng 5G na telepono.
That's correct.
Sabi ko, sapukin kaya kita. Kala mo ganun kadaling bumili ng 5G na telepono? Kasi sabi sa akin, mahal daw. Now, could you answer all of those,
Right.
Lloyd?
Sige.
Why would I do it? Is it readily available everywhere? And what's it gonna cost me?
I have a personal experience on 5G for that one. So, okay, number one, the leap in speed is so vast. Kumbaga, ano na experience mo with your laptop on fiber is what you will experience in phones. Kung sanay ka na sa speed mo, yun ang expectations mo. The other thing now is that our smart 5G network is so extensive. We have, I think, over 7,000 base stations covering over 5,000 sites in the Philippines. It's quite expensive. And my own personal I went to Pangulasan for a vacation last November, and I got called up for an emergency meeting. So I had to set up my laptop and I had my 5G pocket Wi-Fi. So I used this to power my laptop. And then ako on yung phone ko na was connected to 5G. And in Pangulasan Island in El Nido. So I was able to actually do a big meeting using 5G, and it was totally seamless. Parang as if I was at home. Ganun yung experience ko. Now, the other thing lang that on a global scale, 5G is taking off. I know in China it's quite huge and lumalaki siya by the youth market. And I was in the States, I think in December, and that's another story. But it's also a big thing now across the US. That 5G is the next big technology. I think a lot of the stocks in new business are looking at the potential applications for 5G. Now, in terms of our networks, I mentioned earlier, I think given our network coverage, we should be covering at least 2/3 of the population already with 5G. Now, with regards to devices, last year, I think when we launched 5G about a year and a half ago, the devices were in the 40,000, 50,000 peso range. By last year, it was already in the 20,000 peso range, and now you can get devices in the 13 to 15,000 peso range. So yung technology is now is getting cheaper and cheaper. Although it will probably stabilize at this price point lang muna, about 10 to 15,000 over the next 6 months siguro because of the chip shortage. But over time, pababa lang yung presyo. And I think the way you need to look at it, remember when we got into 4G LTE, But without even thinking about it, in about 2 years, everybody was already on the LTE device. So that's what we expect to happen with 5G as well.
How is it relevant in our world of work from home, teleconferencing, etc., like you did in Pangalusian Island, etc.? How relevant is 5G? Kasi syempre, alam mo, that we will reach a point where executives, company executives will start saying, "Hey, boss, if you want us to report, and be able to upload all of the data, mag-shift na tayo sa 5G."
Yeah, it's very relevant because, at the end of the day, speed is life in the internet, right? Pag mabagal, game over na. So critical that you have to have
So
the
wait a
speed.
minute, Lloyd. When
Yes.
you say speed, kasi right now, and on the internet, okay, well, I'm not complaining. I'm happy with PLDT, okay, home fiber optic internet. Now, but with smart, kasi hindi ba meron yan mga plans? Is your speed dependent on the plan, or is it inherent in the technology?
All right. With fiber, ganun yung setup. You can actually define the speed on a per plan, right? On wireless, it's a totally different animal because you don't really set the speed per plan, right? If you're on prepaid, you're on postpaid, you more or less get the same speed. How we differ is in the number of how yung volume that we provide on device to handle more data. Now, why is that speed is important? As I mentioned, especially in a like me in a work from home environment. What's going to happen now is most likely we'll be living in a hybrid type environment, right? I'm actually doing I do office work by 2-3 times a week and I get called often. So I need to be mobile and at the same time I need to have my kumbaga hindi na siya work from home magiging work from anywhere na mangyayari sa atin eh.
Well, that's the goal actually, because I mean even for journalists, ang hirap na biglang may downtime ka because
Correct.
there is no telecoms in the area, no landline in the area. I mean, I went through that in the early years na wala akong telegraph dito, wala ako ditong PLDT, wala. Tapos nagka-cellphone, thank you, may cellphone na, pero sketchy pa rin. So you're saying that 5G is going to cover most of that. Now, I'm just curious. Someone told me, because about 5 years back, I was in Baguio, and one of the challenges for a government office that I was trying to help at giving them training, sabi nila, "Sir, ang problema dito, internet, kasi puro kami bundok, etc., etc." But lately, I found out that Smart has a strong 5G presence up in the mountain province. Na sabi sa akin ng isang local doon, "Kuya, wag ka na umakyat dito kung wala kang 5G at mangangamote ka lang."
Okay. So technically what we do, we leverage technology. So our LTE and our 5G. So magkakasama yan typically. And what we do is we use 5G for heavy data requirements, right? And at the end of the day, the commitment of Smart is to totally roll out our network so we cover the Philippines because we're proud of providing nationwide this coverage. That's always been our history. That's our DNA. At the same time, we're also proud of our history of being the fastest network. So we've won the award ng UCLA in speed it's been the very speed test to derive it. So that combination of providing the fastest and the nationwidest is our mantra. And what it does, it will improve the lives of people, right? Because now I'm not limited to a particular location. I can actually now move around and do the work or study or follow my passions. And I said this because I go on my own physical setup right now. Meron akong inherent mobility because I have my laptop, I have my iPad beside me, and I have my phone. There actually when I am here, nakakonect ako sa home fiber, PLDT home fiber and Wi-Fi. But when I need to move, kasi tatawagin ako ng boss ko, di ba? Tatawagin tayo ng mga boss natin. Sometimes I have to bring this entire setup. Tapos nagko-connect na ako sa 5G, LTE. Ganun nangyayari. And I experienced, like I mentioned, I was in Pangulasan, ganun nangyari. Vacation with the family, instant meeting, ready lang, right? It doesn't stop. And then when you go, even when I was abroad,
So you can actually just work with one device. Is that correct, Lloyd? Kasi sabi dito nga sa bahay, I have multiple devices. I have 3 screens in front of me and 2 cameras and a microphone. But I yearn for the day when I can do standalone programming just using the phone. That's why people have been saying look into 5G.
Yes. Well, the best pa rin when you're at home, the best pa rin is when you have a fiber connection because inherently, because it's wired, it will be the most stable, right?
Yes.
But when you're now moving around, this is the best na ngayon. The next best will be the 5G, right?
Okay.
When you need to be mobile, ito ko connect natin. Now, what I do para hindi mahirap because I have a phone and I have a laptop and I have a iPad, I have what you call the pocket Wi-Fi. So 5G pocket Wi-Fi.
Which we normally just rent in Japan or in the US when we're traveling. So meron palang available na dito na pocket Wi-Fi.
Na 5G. Now, 5G. What it does kasi I want my phone to be my personal communication pa rin, right? Because at the end of the day, ito dapat di maubusan ng battery. Okay. So the only downside of having too many devices and connections in one device, kakain yung battery ko. But in a pinch, I can use this to connect. But when I, for example, have to power my laptop, my iPad, and multiple devices, this is a very handy device that gives me a semblance of
So like the pocket Wi-Fi is 5G and it can be a hotspot. Kasi we're talking 2 different animals here. The device is 5G that you can go around using, but if you don't want to use the phone because of battery concerns, whatever, and you still want the speed of 5G, pwede kang bumili ng pocket Wi-Fi na 5G from Smart.
Yes, it's available. You can buy it in our online store. It's a very handy device and doesn't take a lot of space.
So magiging personal hotspot yon.
Yes, it's a personal hotspot, this one.
So which is well, magagalit sa atin yung mga telephone manufacturer. Pero ano ba ang price difference yan, sir?
They're more or less the same price kasi they're using the same technology with the chips and the and the back end. But I guess the value of this one is really when you're like us, we're professionals, right? This is a very handy device. If you're not really into heavy duty usage, the phone is more than enough, right? But
No, but what about for this setup? Like we're doing a TV interview. Will the phone still handle the requirement?
The phone can handle it. The only problem is it's going to eat up into your battery lang over time, right? So like you, sir, you probably have to be online more than 4 hours, right? And then you need something with a separate battery or separate power. So yung setup natin normally pag sa bahay, wala tayong problema kasi wired na, everything's connected. When we have to move around, the question now is, do I just need it in a pinch? This is enough? Or do I need a bit more juice in terms of battery life and therefore I need something that gives me some freedom? When I was on vacation, to gamit ko eh.
Okay, you mentioned battery life at least 4 times already, Lloyd. Now, how big an issue is it? Kasi ako, sorry malaking edad ko sa'yo. Ako, hindi saksak ko siya sa power bank. Problema ba? Kunin ninyo yung baterya sa kotse.
Yes.
So, saksak natin dyan. Yep. I mean, is it really a big, does the 5G technology demand more juice?
Not necessarily more. Kumbaga, if what we've been experiencing over the past 5 years, parang ganun eh. But it always helps to have some security, right? Like a power bank. Even I have to bring a power bank every time kasi para sigurado lang tayo. I mean, if you think about it, digital is the new oil, right? It's no longer just a nice to have. Because everything now is so connected, you cannot afford not to be connected. Obviously, there's this whole industry around accessories and the needs. You just fit the device according to your needs.
What promos does Smart have right now? That will have to be my last question kasi ang ganda ng lecture mo. Pero at the end of the day, meron bang promo dyan?
So we do. Right now we launch a couple of we just launched a couple of promos. One is our only 999 for the home Wi-Fi, which is wireless version of this one.
Mhm.
Then we have a 599 Smart Bro Rocket Unli. So yun, Andy, paano mo na iisipin, it's designed to be the SIM for these devices.
Mhm.
And then we also have unlimited 5G for your 5G device for your mobile
Phone.
phones. Our smart signature has an only as an only their signature plans now have only 5G. So you
Yung
don't have to worry about it.
599, we still have to buy the device
That's for prepaid. That's for prepaid, boss.
for prepaid.
Prepaid. Yung mention ko naman ng mga signature plans, those are postpaid plans. And
Mhm.
by default, the smart signature plans, I think 999 and up have only 5G already para hindi mo na siya isipin.
Okay. Well, I'll try to get more information online and maybe I can write about it on my column in the Philippine Star. Thank you very much, Lloyd, for such a very informative session with you this morning. And pag nalibre ka naman, pakisabi lang para ma-interview namin kayo ulit because
All right, sure.
this is technology that is really alien to many of us. Thank you
Sure.
very much, Lloyd.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, that's
Bye-bye.
Lloyd Manoloto, First Vice President and Head of Corporate Marketing and Strategy, Smart Communications Incorporated. And let's now go to our closing blessing for this week from the book of Psalms, chapter 5, verse 12. For you bless the righteous, O Lord. You cover him with favor as with a shield. And that's today's agenda. Please keep it here on One News PH. Thank you for joining us. God bless all of you.